Hello and welcome to the Browns Blitz. Today is Wednesday, June 10th, and this is episode number 55. I'm your host, Rod Bloom, and joining me today is John Matye. John is a Browns fan, and John, how are things going for you?
Very well. Thanks a lot. I appreciate you having me on the show.
Absolutely. Glad to have you. John, you're in Oklahoma.
That's correct. Yeah, I live in Collinsville. It's a town about 15 miles north of Tulsa.
All right. How's the weather out there? Hot?
No, it's actually beautiful today. It was a lawn mowing day, 82 degrees and sunny, but it's going to get hot.
You probably have what we're supposed to get for this weekend, which is weather like in the 70s, I think, for Saturday, Sunday. So I'm looking forward to that. So
soak it up.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to get to the Browns, but we are going to start off with our Blitz beverages, and I like to let the guest go first. So why don't you kick it off and let me know what you brought. Let everybody know what you brought to the show. What you're drinking tonight?
Okay, for me tonight, it's an old mainstay for mine. It's a New Belgians Voodoo Ranger IPA. It's a real hearty beer. Goes down real smooth, and if you get a chance, give it a try.
New Belgium is an excellent brewery. I think it's what do I want to say? It's getting to be almost to where it's out there so much that maybe people don't look at it as a small brewery anymore.
Right.
The fat tire and everything, but man, when I first had a fat tire, I'm like, man, this is great. This is probably the only beer I need from now on.
Fat tire is really, really good, and I'm really not IPA guy, but the Voodoo Ranger is super smooth, not quite as bitter as some of your IPAs out there.
Yeah, I've got some in my refrigerator. I haven't had one in a while, but yeah, anything by New Belgium is definitely worth drinking.
Amen to that.
Excellent choice. I'm drinking another Victory, and I'm drinking a Victory Summer Love. This one's I think a 5.2%, and it's just a little lighter, like the name would kind of tell you. A little citrusy, not too much, but Victory, kind of like New Belgium. You go with a good brewery, and you're usually going to be pretty happy.
Yes, you are.
So I'm enjoying what's left of it. As I was saying, I spilled probably a third of it when I opened it earlier, when it kind of foamed over on my desk. But yeah, I've cleaned it up, and I'm enjoying the remainder. So
good deal.
Yeah. So John, we like to kind of give our guests a chance to just kind of talk about your history, your life, just kind of your journey as a Browns fan, kind of how you became a Browns fan, maybe memories, favorite players, things like that. Kind of how you got to this point in your life as a Browns fan.
Sure. I was born in Parma General Hospital, 1972, dating myself. Both my mother and father were big Browns fans. I just grew up watching the Browns. My first memories are of Brian Sipe and the Cardiac Kids. Mm-hmm. That 1980 season devastated me, and I have to give a confession to you, Rod. I actually went and rooted for the Raiders after they went on and won that Super Bowl in 1980. So I had a sabbatical for 5 years until Bernie came around, and I was just getting into my high school years, and I just loved those 80s teams, and it stuck with me ever since. The best memories I have are of that 86, 87, and 89 seasons, and those were my high school years. So if I have to tell you a favorite player, it's almost impossible for me. I am a sports collector. And I have autographed jerseys from three of my favorites from that era, and that's Ozzie Newsome, Clay Matthews, and, of course, Bernie Kosar. All three are just great players. Just loved watching them play. I know Ozzie's in the hall, and let's hope Clay gets there too. Since then, I joined the military in 1992. I served 20 years in the Air Force, retired as a master sergeant in 2012. Went all over the world, lived in Okinawa, Japan for a little bit, and stayed a Browns fan. No matter where I was stationed, I always got back for a game. Still do to this day. And even though the years have been lean since 1999 in the return, I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere, and I'll be pulling for the Browns until they put me down.
Yeah, that's a great story, and I think that's why I like to hear just the journey that everybody goes on. I think everybody enjoys hearing it from different Browns fans too, because I mean, a lot of people are from Cleveland. A lot of people have rooted for the Browns their whole lives, but I just feel like everybody's story is just a little bit different.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, when you move away from Cleveland, Cleveland will always be home to me. But when you move away, you really start to appreciate those teams. That includes the Tribe and the Cavs too. But I'm a Browns fan first, and when you don't live locally and you can't pick up the game on normal TV, and you can't just go down to the stadium in the Muni lot on a Sunday, you miss that. And I definitely treasure coming back once a year.
So you come back for one game a year?
Usually, yes. Yeah, usually one game a year. And like this year, hopefully I'll get to go to 2 games because they're in Dallas this year. So I'll make it down to Jerry's World this year too.
Nice. Very nice. So, yeah, I mean, I think in your age group, I think, the fact that those 80s years are so meaningful to you, it's a common theme. And just how much you look up to, how much you care about some of those specific players. I think that's something that a lot of us share that are in your age group, like I am. So, and there's other guys you could just keep naming. So,
for sure.
But you named 3 really good ones.
Yeah, absolutely. We're not even going to Hanford Dixon, Minifield, or Langhorne, or Slaughter, or Brennan. I mean, it's the list goes on and on.
Yeah. There's a bunch of guys. Like you said, we could just keep talking about those guys. So thanks for sharing that. We're gonna talk Browns. So we're gonna try to best we can just talk Browns. Some current events. It might seem like there's not a lot going on right now, but I think there's a few things we can touch on, and I think we're seeing some positive things from the team. So I want to get your thoughts on some of the stuff that's going on, and first, I just see so many things that show the character of players on this team, and not only players. I mean the staff too. The first thing that I had a note about was Myles and how he's reached out to the family of this retired police captain, David Dorn, his family, to try to help them. He was slain in St. Louis, and he's reached out and just offered to help. Myles doesn't have any ties to David Dorn's family or to St. Louis or anything. It's just the kind of person Myles is.
Yeah, I think it's given people an opportunity, outside of Browns fans, to see the true nature of Myles Garrett. I mean, I think people got a little glimpse of it during Hard Knocks, and got to see that he is a deep thinker. He's into poetry. You can tell he's a person of substance, and I'm hoping this can at least erase a little bit of the Mason Rudolph incident, because I think we're seeing what Myles Garrett's really all about here.
Yeah, I don't want to sound wrong in saying this, but because I haven't seen anybody else suggest this, but do you think that this is just Myles being Myles, or do you think somebody's saying, hey, Myles, you need to work on your image because of what happened last season?
That's a great question. Just a gut feeling. I just think this is who this guy is. Nothing has led us to believe otherwise, other than
Yeah.
the alleged words that were said by Mason Rudolph that sent Myles over the edge. Everything else about
Right.
Myles Garrett has been shown to be a model citizen, a stand-up guy, a guy who cares about his community. I mean, a guy punched him in the face, right? You know,
Yeah.
literally punches him in the face and he does nothing. I think we're seeing the true
Yeah.
color. Now there may be somebody whispering in his ear, hey, this is a great opportunity, but I'm telling you, I believe Myles is doing this of his own accord.
Yeah, I agree with you. Honestly, the thought never crossed my mind until we started talking about this. I just thought it was Myles, and that's the kind of person he is.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I just kind of wanted to get your thought on that.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, he had a great quote out there. He said, this is heartbreaking to watch in reference to Captain Dorn. It's not blacks versus the police. We're fighting for equality and justice. Anyone who supports that should be accepted and respected, cop or not. He doesn't deserve to die like that. Those are his words, and I don't think anybody's telling him what to write down. I just think he cares and wanted to make a difference for that family.
Yeah, I think so. I totally agree with you. So let's go a little further into that topic. And the Browns made a couple more hires. They hired Glenn Cook as their VP of Pro Personnel, and they hired. I really should have looked at how you say his name. Maybe you can help me out. The VP of Football Ops.
Yeah, your guess is as good as mine. I'd hate to murder it.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm going to say it wrong, but Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah. Okay, and if I said that wrong, I apologize. So those two gentlemen, along with Andrew Berry, the Browns have their top three. The top three executives in the front office are all African American. Make of that what you want. I have never suspected that the Browns ever hired somebody because of the color of their skin. I don't think they hired Andrew Berry because he was black. I think they hired him because he was the best man for the job. I love the job he's doing. I've never cared who they had as their coach or what color his skin was. I've cared who they had as their coach.
Right.
I would never say, oh, I want this guy because he's this color or anything. So when the Browns when they have three guys, the top three top executives who are black, what do you think? Is this? I think they did this because these were the best guys available. Okay, I don't think anything past that. But what does this do from a progress standpoint, and what kind of message does this send, around the NFL? And what does this say about Cleveland?
Well, I'll tell you, Jimmy Haslam and Dee Haslam haven't gotten a lot right since owning the Browns. That's just my opinion. But what they have gotten right is providing opportunities to well-qualified minorities. There's just no disputing that. They've done that right. As in any job, things don't always work out, and that doesn't mean you stop going to the pool of quality individuals. And I commend the Haslams for doing that. That being said, it all comes down to winning. It doesn't matter what color your skin is or what you believe in. And, if the Browns start killing it with these three executives, I think it may open further doors to that. But if they fall flat on their face, it's going to be status quo. Because right now the Browns, let's be honest, nobody really holds our organization in high regard. We just don't have the wins to back it up. But if these guys, all with impressive degrees, Harvard, Princeton, University of Miami, if these guys put together a team and Kevin Stafanski produces with them on the field, that's when you're going to see the difference, because unfortunately wins are what matter in pro sports.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And that's why I just, the whole idea that I don't know, I have an issue with the whole skin color thing from both sides, really, that we have to put minorities in positions. That's really not right if they're not qualified, and it's obviously wrong to not give opportunity. So, we need somehow to get to a spot where people are just judged on their qualifications. Right. And I think the only way that happens is by providing opportunities like this. And assuming that the Browns are successful, you'd think that one of these other guys would potentially get a shot at being a GM somewhere else.
Absolutely.
That's how things happen. So it's really the best way to solve the issue.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's 2020, and here we are having to not only have a Rooney Rule, but we have to expand it now. I mean, that just blows my mind, that we really need to expand opportunities and not just look at the quality of the individual and his qualifications to do the job. It's that to me is pretty sad. Yeah,
I agree. So hopefully the Browns are, a trendsetter here just by the sheer fact that they're hiring qualified individuals, giving people opportunities strictly because of their qualifications. And it's going to just show the NFL that, this is how it's done. And it's getting some minorities ready for other positions, assuming there's success here. And, I just, you have to applaud the Haslams. You have to probably Paul DePodesta, and obviously I'm sure that Andrew Berry had a hand in selecting, his these two guys as well.
Sure. And like I said, I definitely tip my cap to the Haslams for doing it. But if we want to see it expand, it will if the Browns start winning under their leadership.
Yeah, I agree. We're going to pause for a moment to thank our sponsor, tshirthooligan.com. You can follow them on Twitter @HooliganTshirt. Be sure and check out their new products, the Just Pruitt and the Running Back Legacy. Check those out either through links on Twitter or just go directly to the website. Now back to the action. Let's see. Alex Van Pelt had a couple of quotes this week, and let's talk about David Njoku first, because I think a lot of people have opinions about David Njoku, either that he hasn't been given the right shot, he didn't get to play enough last year, I think, after the injury, or he's a bust. He drops too many balls. The Browns are going to move on from him because he's from a prior regime, all this stuff. So Alex Van Pelt said that David Njoku has been excellent during the offseason, that he has there's big plans for him in 2020. So what are your thoughts on David Njoku, what he's going to do in this offense? Browns have 3 tight ends now, who I would think would be getting playing time, as far as targets. What are your thoughts for the 2020 season for David Njoku?
All right, Rod, I'm going to get a little nerdy on you here. I like to dig into nuts and bolts, and, a lot of the talk that goes on in the offseason from coaches is coach speak. We all know that. There isn't a coach out there that isn't going to trumpet, the players that are on the roster. But, digging into it a little bit deeper last night, I was just doing a little bit of research, and I looked at Minnesota's play calling under Stafanski last year and the type of personnel groupings he used. So his top 4, so his number 1, everybody knows, is the 12 personnel, the 2 wide receiver, 2 tight end, 1 running back. If you look at the Browns roster, that's OBJ, Landry, Hooper, Njoku, and Chubb. Okay. His next highest percentage of personnel at 25% was 11 personnel, which is the most common in the league. That's your 3 wide receiver, 1 tight end, 1 running back. So you got to think in that formation, you got OBJ, Landry, Higgins, Hooper, and Chubb. Interestingly, his next highest at 21% was a 21 personnel, and that's your 2 wide receiver, 1 tight end, 2 running back grouping. And that's OBJ, Landry, Hooper, Chubb, and Hunt. For me, when I look into these numbers and I say those names over and over again, I really think that Stafanski is going to use a lot more of that 21 personnel. Because
I would think so.
if you want to put your top 5 players on the field, right, your top 5 playmakers, I think that's it, and I don't think many people would argue. And then his 4th highest at only 11% was the 22 personnel, 1 wide receiver, 2 tight ends, 2 running backs, and that's your OBJ, Hooper, Njoku, Chubb, and Hunt. So I've spitted out all those stats. Bottom line is he runs 2 tight end sets 45% of the time, so a little bit less than half. When Njoku's on the field in that type of setting, he's going to be the 3rd or 4th option. Okay, you're talking about a guy that they just paid at his position that makes $44 million with $23 guaranteed. Okay, that guy is going to be the higher option. So if you're the 4th option, 45% of the time, I'm sorry, but I'm not buying Njoku unless Hooper gets injured or for some reason he actually fulfills his 1st round potential. One other reason I wanted to say that, and I left it out, and I apologize. That 21 personnel, the 2 wide receiver, 1 tight end, 2 running back, I think is going to go up because when you break down the passer rating that Minnesota and Kirk Cousins had in that formation, it was 111.2. That's off the charts, and I think that only serves Baker because we all know we're going to go as far as Baker takes us. If Baker can throw at those kind of numbers, the Browns are going to do really, really well. So to me, to answer your question in the long roundabout way that I did, I don't have high expectations for Njoku. I don't see him on the field enough, and I don't see him as a high enough option in that route tree and in Baker's reads that he's going to get enough balls.
Well, I mean, let's face it, beyond what you're saying, I think it depends on how he catches a football. If he can he has traditionally made these tough catches and dropped the easy ball.
Right.
So far in his time in Cleveland, that has to change if he wants to get targets.
Absolutely. And if you look at Minnesota, they had Kyle Rudolph and the young rookie Irv Smith, right? Mm-hmm. Their tight ends. He went to Rudolph more, because the reliability. I mean, I think Stafanski, if anything else that he's bringing to the Browns is you got to be reliable, and David, unfortunately, just hasn't been reliable. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. He makes these crazy, absurd catches and then stone hands on a 5-yard in. It's mind-boggling.
Right, and I agree with you 100%. When you're looking at the personnel, if it's an option between having Kareem Hunt out there or David Njoku, I want Kareem Hunt out there on a lot more often.
Absolutely.
That's who I'm picking.
I think it's a no-brainer personally, but obviously down and distance is going to determine a lot of this, and but stats don't lie, and Stafanski likes a 2 tight end set, but he also likes that 2 wide receiver, 2 running back set a lot too. So when you got Hunt and Chubb, use them.
Yeah, you're going to make your calls based on your personnel, and I think I'm sure he'll go to the 2 tight end because that's what he does. And but when you have the wide receivers you have and the running backs you have, it could change those percentages a bit in Cleveland.
Right. And I'll say this too. He ran 11 personnel, which is the most common, the 3 wide receiver set. He ran it the least of any team in the NFL. So I like Hollywood Higgins, but I don't see him in the 1 year, make it or break it type deal, getting a lot of looks either.
No. And then you go further than Higgins. How many targets are your 4th and 5th wide receivers going to get?
Right.
Not many.
And to be quite
they'll
honest
get
with
some
you,
playing time.
I'm really intrigued with it. Yeah, they'll get playing time, and I really want to see what the kid Donovan Peoples-Jones amounts to. It was I think it was a really good value pick there, and I know he went to that school up north, and a lot of Buckeyes don't care for people that come from Michigan, but once they put on the orange helmet, they're all good with me, and I'm curious to see if he can live up to that talent and that 5-star rating he had coming out of high school.
Yeah, I don't care where they went to school once they get to Cleveland. It really doesn't matter to me. But I'm with you. The thing is, I think with this system and with the limited number of targets for wide receivers beyond our top two guys, I don't know if they're going to be able to make a decision on him in one season.
No,
I think you almost have to figure he needs to be here for a couple seasons, unless he really, just doesn't show up, doesn't work, drops everything's thrown his way, and they just say, this was a mistake.
Right. And they put low investment into him. I mean, 6th round pick. I mean, for a guy with 5-star talent out of high school, I mean, to me, it's worth a flyer. And being a Buckeye fan, that guy was the only guy I feared on that whole roster for the last 4 years.
Rightly so. Yeah.
He was the only guy that scared me.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. There's a good chance he may end up, doing some punt returns or something like that. So he could definitely add some value to the team this year, even if he doesn't get a lot of targets.
Right.
We'll see. So let's move on to the other quote by Alex Van Pelt talking about OBJ. He said he has been a model guy. So how do you take that?
I say hallelujah.
Yeah.
Since
the championship, he's been out of the news.
Right.
Much, right.
Yeah, and the less OBJ's in the news, the happier I am as a Browns fan.
That's right.
That's right. If COVID has any silver lining, it's the fact that all these events have been canceled, and OBJ can maybe focus more on that off-season program and not which fashion show he's going to next.
Yeah. I really just want to see, what he can do at full strength. He and Jarvis in this offense, with the two backs and the two tight ends. I think I know the Browns will be running the ball a lot, but I really think these guys could really have a chance to make some great plays.
Oh, I think, I think one of the curses of Freddie Kitchens last year is he went away from the play action. When we went on that great run, the season before he took the full-time job, we were running a lot of play action. And when you freeze those linebackers and you freeze those safeties, you allow an OBJ to get a step on that corner. And if he's 100%, I really expect OBJ to be back to OBJ form this year.
That would be a lot of fun to watch. I mean, I think you have to give him a lot of credit for playing through the injury last season. And, I think people were disappointed. He didn't score, he didn't score the touchdowns you would expect, but he still put up 1,000 yards. He played all season long hurt. I know he was a distraction. I know he did a lot of stuff that came off as hurting the team or just pointing at him. So let's hope that some of that ends and he just plays football this year. That might be a pipe dream. But if he's at full strength and focused on playing football, we could be in for a lot of fun this season.
Oh, I agree 100%. And none of us really outside of the facility at Berea knew the extent of OBJ's core injury. And it makes a huge difference. So I lightened my stance on OBJ season when I heard that, and I'm with you. If he's 100% for 16 games in this offense that runs play action, you're going to see a lot of big plays out of OBJ.
Yeah, and I mean Jarvis had a great season last year.
Oh, he's just he is consistency.
Yeah.
The guy's going to catch 90 balls, and he's going to be around 1,000 yards. I mean, he's not flashy. I think his career average is maybe a little bit over 10 per reception in yards, but when you need to move the sticks, I want nobody else but Jarvis.
Yeah, and he absolutely showed up in some, big in some key games last year. So yeah, if OBJ can play like we're talking and kind of win over the crowd, I mean, this is going to be a very likable offense, I think, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
I agree. And like I said, that play action is going to be key, and I think the play action is going to help Baker. It's really going to help Baker, which is, to me, even more important. OBJ is going to be OBJ. He's going to make fantastic plays, but getting that confidence back to Baker, to old Baker, I think is going to happen in this offense.
Guys, now's the time to check out Skippin' Stones for Father's Day gifts. Go to Etsy.com and go to the store Skippin' Stones, SKIPPINSTONEZ. All men's lava bracelets and sports plaques are 25% off through Father's Day, and there's, of course, always the items for women. Go ahead and check those out, and now back to the action. Something you didn't bring up is the fullback. Okay, now you mentioned two running backs, and Hunt and Chubb.
Right.
How often do you think we'll see three running backs out there?
Well, okay. Lucky for you, I've got my little stat thing here.
I thought you might.
And I'm looking at when they went jumbo, and it's less than 1%. So I don't think you're going to see three very often. I think in those bigger packages where you bring in the extra linemen and the fullback, technically, yes, that's two running backs, but that's your jumbo package and short yardage. So I think you'll see the fullback third and shorts. I don't know if he can catch the football. I'll be honest, I don't know much about him personally and how he is receiving out of the backfield. But you're a fullback. Your job's to smack a middle linebacker. So if he can do that, which the Browns seriously lacked last year, then I'm all for it.
I have a feeling they're gonna go with that set a little more often, just because of the talent of the three guys. So I'm not going to say they're going to run it 25% of the time or anything like that, but I could see them coming out, with three running backs and really just running the ball down the field against some defenses.
Well, I'll just historically with football, there's nothing more demoralizing to a team than when you're running the football on them and they can't stop it when they know it's coming. And that's a fun thing to watch. Going back to my 80s days with Mack and Biner, there were days it wasn't Bernie carrying that team.
Mm-hmm.
Mack and Biner had 1,000 yards apiece one season. I can't remember if it was 85 or 86. But I'd love to see that out of Chubb and Hunt.
I think you're going to see it. I think it'll be situational, definitely. But I could see him coming out with those three guys in the backfield and just keeping them in there, and just almost doing a hurry up, and just going, okay, 2 runs for Chubb, 1 for Hunt, and just pounding the ball down the field against if they get the right defense out there. So
right. Yeah, because Dalvin Cook was hurt a lot last year for Minnesota. The Madison kid did a pretty good job, and with no live sports right now, I'm going to probably take my valuable spare time and rewatch some Vikings games and try to get a feel of how Stefanski calls plays, because we really don't know, and since no other live sports are going on, why not watch it?
Yeah, I just saw part of one last week sometime. They're on. There's games on TV all the time now, so
yeah, right.
Definitely.
It's just not quite as fun when you already know the ending.
Well, some of these games, I'm not talking the Minnesota game, but some of these games are so long ago, I don't remember the end, who won or lost. So
Oh, wow. Okay. That's a bonus.
they're playoff games, and I couldn't tell you who won or lost until it gets to the end.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
we're like,
maybe if the Browns were in the playoffs more often, we might remember. But
yeah, we might, but yeah, it's like, yeah, I don't know who won this game. Yeah.
I turn off football after the Brown season's over till the Super Bowl, pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of pay attention depending on what I'm doing in fantasy and whether it counts for fantasy or not. But yeah, about the same.
Yeah.
So, Hugh Jackson, this has been out there. He said he wanted Colin Kaepernick in 2017. I don't know how prevalent this is across the league that a coach or somebody said they wanted him on the team. This is a huge story right now. Not the Hugh Jackson part, just the Colin Kaepernick, and people. There's people now that want him to have a job in the league. And how long has it been since he's played?
2016 was his last season.
16. So yeah.
It's been a minute.
So, yeah, it's been a while. So, I'm not going to say anything bad about him, but it's been a long time. So for him to just be handed a job, and I know this is such a complex issue, but what are your thoughts on Hugh Jackson coming out now and saying that he wanted him in 2017? And do you think that the coach saying in 17 that he wanted him, do you think that really carried any weight since he wasn't the guy, he wasn't the GM of the team?
No, not at all. And as a matter of fact, I was digging into some quotes from March of 2017, and this is Hugh Jackson, okay? Quote, "We haven't really discussed Colin. There's other players at this point that we've had a lot of conversations about to see if we can put them on our team. Not saying it won't come up later. You have to exhaust everything, but at this point, he hasn't come up." So that to me is classic Hugh Jackson, self-promoting, taking advantage of a situation. I don't buy it at all. I'm not Hugh Jackson guy.
I'm not anymore either. I was when he came to Cleveland, but not anymore. He's done enough things like this to just try to throw other people under the bus and
right.
make everybody else look bad.
Right. He talked out of both sides of his mouth way too much for me to buy into this. And when you got a direct quote addressing the subject at the time when it mattered, right, 2017. I'm not buying it. I'm just surprised we didn't hear him say that he'll have to watch the tape on Colin.
Yeah. That would have been no surprise whatsoever.
Yeah, no. I mean, it was. I would just assume forget about Hugh and the 1-31. I mean, that was just absolutely brutal. It was worse than Freddie. I mean, Freddie was bad. Don't get me wrong. It was a pretty rough ride. But like you said, I was excited about Hugh. I mean, he was a top-notch OC and had a pretty prolific offense. But man, it just the wheels just came off in Cleveland, and we're still recovering from it.
Yeah, definitely. So OBJ and Jarvis have kind of stepped out as leaders recently, making a video, about the issues that are out right now. So kind of wanted to get your thoughts, really mostly on your opinion, of them as leaders and what this does for the team.
Well, I think we've always seen it from Jarvis. We saw it on Hard Knocks. That's what leaders do. Leaders get out in front of issues. Leaders will get out and address problems and issues and talk about, the tough things out there. And Jarvis has always done that. OBJ, it kind of surprised me, but believe me, I'm glad he is doing it. I mean, a guy of his caliber and his stardom, he needs to get out there and lead. And I'm all for it. And I'm all for the videos, and I'm all for what they're saying. And like I said, I think the blessing of COVID is that I think OBJ is really focusing on football, and he's focused on being a better player this year, being a better leader this year, and set an example for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, I think I talked with whoever, maybe it probably came up more than once, but way back when the Browns were on Hard Knocks, I talked on the podcast about Jarvis and him being a leader, and kind of how it was a little ironic that a wide receiver was stepping into a leadership role, because wide receivers have the reputation as kind of being the divas, all about me.
Right.
That's what everybody thinks of with these top wide receivers. And that's how people would see somebody who, somebody like a Jarvis or OBJ, if they didn't know them especially, they would just say, oh, they're a top wide receiver. That's probably how they are. So, it kind of surprised me when Jarvis did it. So I wasn't sure at the time if he was doing this kind of out of necessity because nobody else on the Browns was stepping up to be a leader, or if this was just strictly in his nature. And I have to assume at this point it's just in his nature that he's not your typical diva wide receiver. I think we've seen this, so we know this with Jarvis. But so to see OBJ join him in this, is he joining his friend? Is he this focused on the issue? Do the Browns lack leadership in other places where they should have it? What's your thought on just the leadership from players on the Browns?
Well, I agree with you. Traditionally your leadership, I mean, if you want to, pigeonhole on defense, your middle linebacker, on offense, your quarterback, typically those are your positions that are your leaders, but that's not to say you can't be a leader of a team. And I think when you have that leadership quality that Jarvis has, and you see a void of leadership or a lack of leadership or not enough in his opinion, those people will step up, and leaders bring people with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why they're leaders. And if OBJ's coming around to this is, I don't care if it's because it's his friend or whatever, or he's just attracted to leaders like people are, I'm all for it. And I agree with you. I think it's in Jarvis's, just his core as a person, to not be silent and to step up and lead where he sees that leadership may be lacking. None of us are in that Browns locker room. We speculate and we try to figure out what guys like what, and we're all armchair quarterbacks to some degree. But you eventually see the true character of people over time. And I think that's just what you're seeing with Jarvis, and he's bringing the rest with him, and I'm all for it.
So who's the Browns leader on defense? Do you think Myles is the leader on defense?
From a strictly talent perspective, you would think he would be by default. But again, we don't know what kind of vocal leader he is. It's kind of like Joe Thomas. Joe Thomas was not, your loud guy. He was the most talented guy, on the Browns roster, but he wasn't, leadership, rah guy or however. That just might not be in Myles's, in his nature.
Right.
Does it mean he can't be the leader? Of course not. Of course he can. I mean, he certainly has the talent to be. I mean, the guy is. I still believe the guy is a generational talent. If he can stay on sides and not drive me crazy on Sundays, but talent-wise, he truly is an amazing talent. So, but if I had to say who was the leader, man, on defense, that's tough because I mean you lost Kirko. He's gone now. all the injury concerns. And I really saw Demarius Randall as a leader, maybe not always in a positive way, but he was some fire on that defense. Like, I love that guy for handing Hugh the football. I mean, that's just beautiful. I watch that over and over again.
Oh yeah.
But
Perfect.
right now, right now on this team, man, I'd have to go with Myles. I just think if he isn't, then we desperately need him to step up and be, because those linebackers are just too young. And Mack Wilson, I think, could develop into a leader.
He's who I was thinking of, but yeah, I think you're right. I think he needs time. I mean, a guy in his second year shouldn't be focusing on being a team leader. He needs to focus on his game at this point.
Right. That Browns defense, I mean, it's got some veterans on that defensive line, but we're pretty young everywhere else. I think that's the biggest question mark with this team is going to be the defense and, how these young linebackers play. So leadership wise, I'm just hoping that Myles Garrett does step up and be that voice to go along with his talent.
Yeah, I think he leads. It's just, like you said, it's probably more in a Joe Thomas kind of way. But again, like you said, we're not in the locker room, so we don't know how much he says. But guys like that, you want them to lead with just the routine, the way they play, and just the way they listen and execute what the coaches say and everything else. They can be a leader that way and have other guys follow them. So hopefully Myles does that. And obviously he's setting a great example with stuff he's doing in the community too. So we'll see. We'll see how much more he has in him as far as a team leader.
Right.
So Kevin Stafanski had a Zoom call today, and the essence was that he has his players' backs, really regardless of what they decide to do on the current social issues. What I really like is that he talks a lot about communication. He talks about communicating with his players, and he brought up multiple times in this call that he will talk with his players, as long and as often as he needs to, so that they're on the same page. He's getting together, I think he called it an executive council of players. I think this is just his idea. I don't even think he's done anything to get it going yet, but he wants to get a council of players together, I guess probably to communicate with him and probably management. But he's very much into listening to his players and what they want, and the sense is that whatever they decide to do, as a protest or whatever they feel is right, that he's going to go along with it. And I think, if they decide to kneel, he's probably going to kneel with them. If they decide to do something else, he's going to stand with them no matter what. So I think it shows a lot of strength from a coach to be in charge and to have the confidence to say that I'm gonna listen to these guys and talk to them, but I'm still the coach. I'm still calling the shots.
Yeah, I agree. We don't know what kind of coach, Stefanski's going to be, but one thing we can get from, all these press conferences and the way he's reacted to the COVID pandemic, to the racial issues we're dealing with today, is he's a very grounded individual. You just get that sense of calm about him. Even with you're a first time head coach and boom, you can't have people in the building. And, it's, and he just seems so calm, and he, when you have a personality like that, you absorb a lot, and I think he's absorbing a lot, and that goes back to what his players are saying in communication and really hearing what they want to say, and how they want to do things while maintaining that authority position as the head coach. So I like what I see out of Kevin so far. Again, it's all going to come down to Sundays, but man, the guy just seems really grounded.
Yeah, it's just the fact that we're not, and it could be the pandemic. Just the fact that we're not hearing a lot of issues with the players.
Right.
That's about all we can go by. That and what we're hearing out of Stafanski and other coaches. We really can't base our thoughts on anything else at this point. So hopefully the fact that the players aren't having any issues and that everything seems to be positive, hopefully it's all accurate and
right.
And hopefully they're getting ready to play football and hopefully the Browns are gonna, hopefully they're gonna be ready to play when the time comes.
Right. And I'll tell you, I think you're gonna see the protests this year, and to be honest with you, rightfully so. I think George Floyd is, I think at least for me, it's really just resonated, just what a terrible thing it was, and that things systematically need to change. And, as a veteran, it's very hard for me to watch kneeling before the flag. I'm not going to lie to you. But I also understand that I served for people's rights, to be able to exercise their right to protest. And I respect that, and I respect what they're kneeling for. So.
Yeah, I'm with you. And we're actually going to really get into that on our next podcast. I've got some guests lined up to talk about it, that issue. But I really just feel like the issue, and when things started with Colin Kaepernick, I think things seemed so complex to a lot of people, and I don't think everybody understood everything, and a lot of people got the wrong impression. I was one of them. I
was too.
I was with you.
Yep.
I didn't like the fact that the people were, doing this to the flag. So I was against it, and we learn and
right.
And we learn and we move forward. So
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you're not growing if you aren't learning, and it's certainly for me. I look at it in a different light, and it's definitely different for me now than it was in 2016. That's for sure.
Definitely, yeah, a lot different. So, John, I like to give everybody a chance, to kind of leave everybody with either some words of wisdom or kind of some closing remarks. Is there anything you'd like to close with?
Well, I just want to tell everybody, to stay safe out there. That COVID's still real and it's out there. I'm thankful my mom's recovering. She got COVID right after Mother's Day, and it is real. It is out there. Stay safe, everybody. Go Browns, and I think the Browns are going to go 9-7 and be in the playoff hunt. So, thanks for having me, Rod. I really appreciate it. Enjoyed it.
Absolutely. I would take 9-7 right now. Anything to get into the playoffs, that would be remarkable. So thanks a lot, John. This has been the Browns Blitz, and we will catch you next time.